Hello and welcome to another roundtable. I'm here and joined by Biraj, Daryl, Kerry and Paul again. Thank you all for taking the time to join me today. I want to pose an ethical question to you guys, but also for the people watching and listening to this. I say ethical because we're going to talk about that dirty word, money. I know some of you are listening after 6 p.m. where you are, and my mum always told me never talk about money after 6 p.m. So I apologise, but it's something that's been playing on my mind. It's been a crazy year. There was a lot of debate and public opinion about companies, listed companies paying out dividends whilst they've been laying off and putting people on furlough. So I've been thinking about this, and one of the other things I'm thinking about is, well, okay, that's the organisations deciding or debating whether to pay a dividend out to its shareholders and its investors. But what about the management teams and people within those organisations who have had the opportunity to receive a bonus, whether it's cash, shares, or long-term incentives like stock options? Should those be paid out in a time when you're seeing that same business laying off people or putting on people on furlough for months on end? And talking for guys in the UK, and you're based there at the moment, maybe the government has actually provided quite a lot of support to people on furlough, but there are countries where it is people are not earning anywhere near what they were earning when they were working, and it's hard for them. So should managers or executives be taking bonuses this year and even potentially next year, or options? Should they be paying out, or should they be something that's deferred? Kerry, what would your thoughts from a HR sort of perspective be?
This is really an interesting one, Kevin, because Duncan Brown, who's an independent benefits advisor, has written a report on the rewards after the pandemic. And he believes that we should be looking at value of employees, and HR leaders should be helping support the strategic and systematic review of employment and reward policies and practices in organisations. We've had a lot of things in the public sector around pay rewards for nurses and different groups. And there's a big debate around what should they be getting, what's the value of those people that have kind of supported the country through this pandemic. And yet then when we're looking at bonuses for perhaps people in other sectors, which are more than the salaries that they earn in a year. So this is a really kind of interesting area at the minute to look at. And I think from my perspective, we should be looking at rewards and the employment practices that we have in a more systematic way. So we should be asking ourselves some sort of fundamental questions about what's the benefit of rewards, what's the principles, what's the goals, what are the values, what's the success criteria, why should we be making these awards and these bonuses? Now, obviously, if people have been contracted these bonuses, then obviously I'm not suggesting we start taking money away from people. I think just going forward, though, we need to think about, as a country, and maybe other countries too, is about how and why we reward people, what's important, what should they be measured against, and why should they be rewarded as much as the amounts concerned. So I think going forward, it's really important that remuneration committees and shareholders in larger businesses and small businesses think about what's the benefit of rewards to people and what rewards resonate with people. So people who are in their 20s may want different rewards to people in their 50s. And so therefore, it shouldn't be one size fits all, and we should look at rewards as a large piece of work, perhaps post-pandemic, and look at some of the outcomes coming out of this report on rewards after the pandemic. So that's kind of perhaps my starting point, Kevin.
That's interesting, Kerry. So, Daryl, what would you say in terms of the original question I posed, but also, from what Kerry's saying, do you think there should be a deeper reflection on what types of awards that are made and the benefits of different kinds, or do you think what we have works now?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of this question, I mean, just listening to Kerry there, it actually made me think of something that popped up on my LinkedIn feed today, which was someone outlining that they'd been contacted by an employee who'd received notification from the employee coming off a furlough that they would need to do another 6-month probation. This person had 6 years service or something like that. So my worry about this is that will companies, try to protect themselves, if you like, in terms of, well, we brought you off a furlough, it didn't really work out, therefore we're going to have to make you redundant, which would then, perhaps overlook the whole, was I due a bonus? Did the company, do enough to actually provide me with this additional can't even say it, benefits? We'll go with benefits, and stuff like that. So I think it'll be an interesting one. My personal view is that if the companies have been trading, if there is a benefits for bonuses which are there, which are made up of the individual and the company performance, which I've experienced before, then if the company has performed even in this extraordinary time, then why wouldn't there be a form of bonus? They may well be significantly less, and that bonus could also be a guarantee that there'll be employment for the next year, or no threat of redundancy for a quarter or 2 quarters. I think there does need to be some kind of position from employers that gives more confidence to the employee, whether that be the traditional ones, or whether it becomes flexible working, or some other third thing that provides enough incentive and guarantee that they can build confidence in a return to work, return from furlough, to actually help the company to perform better.
Interesting. So, Paul, I guess, what would your view be?
Well, listening to Kerry and Daryl, I think I have a bipolar personality when it comes to this specific topic, because part of my DNA is human leadership. And part of human leadership is be in the trenches, be there with your people, understand their pain, support their pain. And I have a little bit of an ethos that says, don't ask anyone else to do something that you wouldn't do yourself.
Yeah.
And if you're asking them to take all the pain, and if you're asking them not to get the bonus, if you're asking them to take pay cuts, you should be part of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that human leadership part of me says that's just ethically the right thing to do. Then I have my other Paul over here that says the world's a competitive, tough place, and finding the best talent and retaining the best talent is a war. It's a battle. And companies will pay bonuses. They will pay sign-on bonuses, for example, to steal your best talent. And if you're not being competitive in that way, and if you're not looking after those high performers, they'll leave. And if they leave, it's going to hurt the company more. So at the end, I think Kerry's summary of you have to find ways to motivate all the employees and find something that value to each employee. And maybe that's employment, like you said, Daryl. Maybe it's share options for someone higher up. Maybe it's a slight perk on a vehicle, an upgrade on a vehicle for someone else. But somehow we have to find that balance and give people a little bit. But let's try and do it fairly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they guarantee. Normally there's a pot, isn't there, that gets assigned out. So to your point there, if it's an upgrade to a car or whatever, a childcare vouchers, doesn't actually matter. If that pot of money is available to distribute through the ranks, then as long as it's fair, then everyone wins, hopefully.
Darryl, you raised a great point there. So distributing the pot across the organisation, but then maybe I'll ask this to Biraj is, okay, the company's got the pot, and you've got the people who are bonus eligible, and they've all been working. They've worked really hard, and okay, it's a difficult year, 2020, but they come out reasonably well against what they budgeted for, and what they've agreed with the board, should that pot now be shared with everybody in the organisation, or just retained by the bonus eligible employees and staff?
It's a really interesting question, actually. So I think we need to consider first and foremost the duration that organisations are furloughing their staff, right? So we're not currently at a place where staff have been furloughed for a full 12 months, right? We're talking about staff being furloughed for 3 to 4 months so far. Now, I'm not saying that that's not going to carry on. It may carry on, and they may be on furlough for much longer. But if we kind of look at the current situation and where bonuses are currently being paid at this stage, that staff member that's been on furlough for the last 3 to 4 months may have significantly contributed towards the success of that organisation, such that they have ended up at year end in a position to be able to pay bonuses. Those staff that are furloughed are still employees of the organisation, just not being paid at this particular moment in time, but they're still employees of the organisation. And so for me, I feel if there is a company performance related pot, that should be shared across the whole workforce, regardless of whether you've been working or whether you've been made furloughed. I know that some organisations will then have a personal performance element to that as well. And, if a member has not been furloughed and they're continuing to work and they've done additional things or have to go beyond and above and beyond to essentially do the work of others that are no longer in the organisation because they have been furloughed, i.e. they have outperformed against their particular duties, then maybe that particular percentage should go to those individuals that have continued to work. But I think a company related or a company financial related bonus should go to the whole company, in my opinion. Just going on to a couple of things that some of the other guys have said as well, I think rewards generally is something that I think organisations need to now look at going forward. I had a really interesting conversation with someone the other day, and we were referring to bonuses, and they mentioned in the same breath that they didn't get a bonus, but they did get a bonus. And I was like, hang on, what do you mean? And they said, well, financially, I didn't get a bonus. However, I've not been commuting to work for the last 6 months. And I've therefore saved, 25 to 30 pounds per day travel, which I would not have got previously if I was traveling into the office. And therefore, they saw that as a bonus. And I was like, that's a really interesting way to kind of look at things there, because ultimately, is there kind of a double bubble payment going on here where you're giving people a financial bonus and they're saving all this money as well because they've not been traveling into the office? So just another interesting perspective to look at there, because a lot of people, I'll rephrase that. Some people may have been financially better off during lockdown than others. And if they're then receiving a further bonus on top of that, there's a question about, is that fair? I don't know.
Time rich as well, so
and time rich,
because they've saved an hour each way, maybe commuting, so they've spent time having breakfast with their family or doing other things that they want to do. So self-development, all the kind of things that you wouldn't be able to get. And that's why for me, I think reward going forward really does need to be looked at carefully, because during this lockdown period, I think people have really valued other things than just financial reward. As you say, time, presence with your family, travel costs, all that kind of stuff now all of a sudden has become so more relevant to people that actually, if you ask someone, I'm going to pay you £10,000 less, but you can work from home every day, versus £10,000 more, but you have to travel into London 2 hours each way and it costs you 30, 40 quid a day. So I know which one I'd pick right now.
And it's the other kind of knock-on effect to that as well, isn't it? We talk about recovery in the economy. If everyone is getting this time bonus, the saving money bonus from not travelling or buying a coffee or buying a sandwich or that for lunch, those industries are obviously suffering because they've not got the footfall.
Yeah.
So you're trying to kickstart the economy on one side and give bonuses and rewards and stuff like that to your employees. But if one of those is flexible working, you then knock that problem down the line. You've then got to work out what happens to those baristas and stuff that are waiting for us to go and buy our extra wet double chocolate mocha lattes every morning and stuff like that. So an interesting one.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Actually, you're right. There's a bit of a catch-22 situation here, isn't there?
What about the guys? This is the final one, I think, before we wrap up. So just following on from Biraj's point, so people aren't traveling, people aren't, they've got more time, we can argue whether that's actually a perk from the company or that's just the circumstances that have happened. But what about the guys then who, I remember when I worked in London, I could get a season ticket loan, which now I paid for my train ticket, and I'm only getting in and out of London for work. Now, do I still owe that to the company because I can't use it?
It's a good point, actually. I never really thought of that, actually. It's a very good point.
Oh, yeah. I'll throw that out there. I mean, I don't think there is a right or wrong answer, but
that's completely so. I wouldn't be able to refund it against the train companies, or are they like it's one transaction only? You paid for that, therefore, it's a really. I didn't even give that a thought, to be fair. But there's loads of companies that offer that as a perk, as you say, because it saves you a couple of grand a year, doesn't it, to actually go into London and stuff.
Be interesting to know whether the train companies can afford to pay it back, because they've got a massive great hole in their finances because people aren't travelling on the transport system as they did, and they're already saying to the government they need help. So whether you'll get a refund on your annual season ticket or whatever it might be a way down the path.
They'll probably argue they've had 100% punctuality for the past 6 months, and that's why they justify keeping the money, probably. But anyway.
Yeah. So on that note, thank you guys for the really insightful comments to the question I posed, which was about should bonuses or other sort of benefits be paid out during this time, given that companies are still laying off people and have people still on furlough, and some actually putting people onto furlough because business hasn't recovered. To sum up, I guess it's a little bit of a mixed bag. Maybe the answer is we need to relook at the system of bonuses and benefits, and actually to really Kerry's point, which I think everybody picked up on, was maybe there are other ways. It isn't just necessarily cash or other incentives, and it could be the young graduates and the younger employees have a very different view of what is a bonus to them. Now they have time bonus because they don't have to go into the office. They can do things that they want to do. They're not spending money on travel. So I think that was a really interesting discussion. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to it, but I thank you all for your time, and for everybody listening, please chime in, let us know what your thoughts are, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.
Thank you.